Hi, everybody. I'm Walter. I'm the Dutch mentor, and welcome to the S.M.A.R.T Performance Podcast. S is for self-care, M for mindful growth, A for adaptive problem solving, R for rhythmic operation, T for a thriving community, and P, of course, for performance. As of January 1st, you can find me in the Apple Store, the Dutch mentor, all one word, to buy into our mobile app to have you too go on your journey of success. Welcome, Camilla, to the show. She's coming all the way from Denmark and is going to talk to us a little bit about dream big, act small. But of course, she will explain to what that means in her terms. And the second part, we will dive a little bit more into how to build a robust emotional intelligence as a key ingredient to your success. So, Camilla, thank you very much for joining me this morning in conversation. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll dive right into the first topic.
Yeah. I am the founder of She Leads, an authentic leadership movement, and I help leaders regulate their emotions, own their worth, and speak power to truth. And I do that because I observed also from my own journey that we tend to dim our light and not speak up and give our power away when we're in a room with more dominant people. So that is my first goal, but my bigger goal is to help leaders really set them up for more effortless success by regulating their emotions, so emotional intelligence.
So most of our teachings come from deep personal experiences, right? So you alluded to that a little bit. Tell us a little bit of your story of where you experienced this. And then, of course, that's where you made a transformational change and made a commitment to teach this forward.
Yeah, I would love to. So first of all, I have 20 years in corporate, BP, Shell, IBM. So I'm taught how to do leadership and how to be a leader from the technical standard or the technical perspective. But inside, I was running on empty. I had everything on the outside, but I was running on empty. And my mirror moment was then I found myself in a relationship that was not healthy for me. Very unhealthy, Walter. I was so stressed. I could pull out my hair, and I thought I had cancer. I had no cancer, just really stressful. It ended up in a very toxic divorce with court hearings. I got my daughter to go to court, and I ended up discussing emotional intelligence with lawyers. And I was told if I do not regulate my own self-image, then how could I ever heal my daughter? And that accelerated or propelled me into emotional intelligence. And I saw how I quantum jumped in my own life and my career. Women with similar stories were not seduced, but resonated with my message. And I helped them regulate from the inside out. That's why I become so passionate about helping other people regulate their emotions, but even more become more emotional, intelligent leaders.
So thank you for sharing that. And I certainly can recognize in my work with my clients, and to some extent, we all have experienced that along in our journeys. One of the things is that if you don't recognize it, if you don't, work, and really try to understand yourself or get some help from a person like yourself in order to work your way through that, you're going to be holding yourself back. Right. So running on empty. So tell us a little bit about what is what happens to the human body and the mind if you don't get help, and how do they then transition to finally, it's almost like an alcoholic being stuck in this forever cycle of drinking more. How can they see that their life has become unmanageable and finally ask for help?
I love that. How to ask for help. So I've been a workaholic as well. I was so proud to clock 60 hours in 4 days. But one thing is that. Another thing is that there's only really two feelings. There's love and there's fear. Fear of not being liked, fear of not belonging. And subconsciously giving our power away to people who are more controlling. And what happens to those that resonate with, actually, I want to no longer dim my light. I want to own my worth. That is a green flag. How often do you actually stay quiet to not rock the boat when really what you had to say could turn everything around for the matter of greater good, right? So that is the awakening. And most of us have at least found ourselves in situations where we give our power away to people who are more dominant. The next step is, okay, I am done playing small. I am done giving a power away. And what happens within is that then you come home and you beat yourself up. Maybe you just say yes because you cannot you don't have healthy boundaries and you're afraid to say no because what will happen if you say no? But that is another green flag. And what happens is that many of my clients, they collapse when they come Friday evening, or they continue pushing the most important task to please other people, including the C-suite peers, including the CEO. And what happens is that they perform, but on other people's schedule. And so they end up running behind. So what I advise my clients, and something your audience can do as well, is to make sure that you have time in your schedule for you to reflect what is the most important and learn to say no 9 out of 10 times to set you up for success. Like you, the dear viewer right now, a listener. Make sure that you go to work to set you up for success. Make sure that you know what are the 3 most important tasks or 2 that you need to do each and every day. Yeah, that's really easy when you know how to do it.
Yes, it is. But it is so very hard to say no, right? It is that, I work in healthcare, primarily speaking. I work with people across any industry, but people pleasers have a really hard time saying no. But I always remind people that by saying yes, at some point in time, you become diluted. And your effectiveness as a leader, your personal brand is going to be tarnished. And there's only one trade-off you can make. You either work more hours and you take that time away from your family, or you start failing, right? And it's really, neither one of those options are really, really great. So talk to me as people go through this transition. So they finally come to the realization that they got a problem. Your tank was empty. You went through a divorce. So what does the path of recovery look like? How can you start building that strength of emotional intelligence and start dreaming big and acting small so they too can live their fullest life?
I love that. It's actually quite easy. The very first step is the awakening in the conversation is, where do you sabotage your own success? Why do you say yes? Why do you keep adding on assignments to your own plate, or even passing it down to your team? That is the first thing. Why do you tolerate so much? Because oftentimes, Walter, is that we say no out of fear. We may say no because we've been taught in school to act and to do more. But then I invite my clients to borrow the belief, as you just mentioned as well. Remember that you have a job to set other people up for success. You're not in that job to people please. And that it is okay to say no. And because people respect you, most people are afraid that they're not respected when they say no, but that's actually not true. But I said, some people ask me, do I just then say no? No, say no in a polite way. Say, okay, got so many tasks. How do I then, something has to let go. What do I let go? So it becomes a conversation, but people respect when you say no, but that's actually the very first 2 steps. Why do you sabotage your own success? And why do you say yes too often?
Yeah, I love that. Thank you very much for sharing that. So I always say that the polite way of saying no is to start up by saying, listen, I'm honored that you came to me and asked me to participate. But I want to do my very best. And in order to be able to do my very best, I need to have the bandwidth to do that. And today I don't. However, in a month from now or 2 months from now, I'm finishing up project A, B, and C. If you need me at that point in time, I'm more than happy to come back for a conversation and see how I can fit in. And I think that's a polite way of saying no without being shrewd about it, and also being very protective of yourself. Right? It is that I talk about this often. Listen, there's 6 balls that we juggle in the air all of the time. Out of the 6 balls, there's only one made out of glass, and that is your family, the things that are closest to you. And every time you say yes to another thing, volunteer work at home, at school, at work, is one step closer to dropping that glass ball, and that comes at an expense you might not get back. So talk to me a little bit about, people come to realization now they feel empowered to say no. How can they get back onto that path of finding themselves, being that emotionally connected, intelligent person, and how can they set up their path for success so they don't fall back into that same trap?
Mm, actually, that's 2 questions in one. But
It
how
is.
can they become more intelligent, emotionally intelligent? What I teach is that, inspired by Dr. Joe Dispenza, is that thought is the language of the brain, the feeling is the language of the body. Emotional intelligence is the feeling in our body. And feeling is the most important, not most important, but that's the intuition. And what we learned to not listen to our feelings. So if you want to become more emotional intelligent, just listen to your body. To pause and say, okay, what sensation, from Deepak Chopra, what sensation do you feel right now? Or when you were in that meeting, what do you feel? And then listen to your body. What does that say? That's the very first step, and you can practice that at home. But it requires us to really slow down and honor the feeling. And also, when we start to honor the feeling, intuitive leadership, intuitive listening is to listen to your body. And there's so much gold in just pausing and reflecting on what my body is saying. The next step to put in the reps is to, then we come into the manifestation. Not that it's woo woo, but it's like, in order for me to become a more emotional, intelligent person, who do I want to be when I go into this conversation? And I oftentimes teach from being a transactional leader versus a transformational leader. Most people or leaders end up being transactional leaders, but really, Walter, and you probably can relate to that and see that in your own business, they dream to be transformational leaders. So if you want to be a transformational leader, with really asking bold questions, how do you show up in that meeting? What questions do you ask? And if you feel triggered, again, pause, bless you, feel the sensation in your body and be honor that in that meeting right now I feel triggered, and own your emotions. It's nothing to do with you triggering me. I get to choose how I want to feel. That's some of the steps, and practice on reps. We want to practice each and every day, not to fall back to our old self. You can find me on LinkedIn, my name, Camilla Calberg, my website, camillacalberg.com, and also on YouTube, Camilla Calberg, where there's different free videos on emotional intelligence, how to find your dream job, not from the technical standpoint, but from the emotional intelligence standpoint. So there's some good resources there as well. Yeah. Closing thought. Remember that you were born into limits, but you don't have to put limits on yourself. Allow yourself to be free, allow yourself to be abundance, and really just follow your heart, and then everything will follow your desires. Yeah, thanks for having me. All right, we made it. I appreciate being here. Yeah, it was good. Thank you. And you can we log off now? Are you do good? Okay. Thanks, Valor. Cheers. Bye bye.